It was a normal Tuesday morning when the world changed forever. The sky above New York City filled with strange, dark shapes. They weren't clouds or planes. They were something no one on Earth had ever seen before. Sarah Chen, a young office worker, was the first to notice. She looked up from her phone as she walked to work and stopped dead in her tracks. Her coffee cup fell from her hand, splashing onto the busy sidewalk. "Look!" she shouted, pointing at the sky. "What are those?" Around her, people began to stop and stare. The shapes grew larger and clearer. They were ships, massive and alien, unlike anything humans had built. They moved silently, their dark metal gleaming in the morning sun. Panic spread quickly. Car horns blared as traffic came to a standstill. People ran in all directions, some trying to get home, others just trying to find shelter. The noise of the city rose to a frightened roar. In Washington, D.C., President Emily Rodriguez sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by her top advisors. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady as she spoke. "What do we know?" she asked. General Mark Thompson, a tall man with gray hair, stepped forward. "Madam President, we've detected over 50 alien ships in Earth's orbit. They appeared out of nowhere, using technology we can't understand. Our missiles and planes can't get near them. We're defenseless." The room fell silent. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, every screen in the room lit up. TVs, computers, even cell phones all showed the same image. A strange, alien face. It had gray skin, large black eyes, and no visible mouth. When it spoke, the words appeared as text on the screens. "People of Earth," the message read, "I am Commander Zix of the Galactic Alliance. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender immediately, or face the consequences." President Rodriguez stood up, her hands clenched into fists. "We need to respond," she said. "We can't just give up without a fight." As if in answer, the alien commander spoke again. "To show you our power, we will now demonstrate our ultimate weapon. Prepare yourselves, humans. We are about to unleash the beast." Fear rippled through the room. What could this beast be? Some kind of superweapon? A horrible monster? No one knew, but everyone was scared. Meanwhile, in a small town in Kansas, a farmer named John Miller stood in his field, looking up at the alien ships. Unlike most people, John wasn't running or hiding. He stood his ground, his old shotgun in his hands. "Come on then," he muttered. "Show us what you've got." Back in New York, Sarah Chen had made it to her office building. She huddled with her coworkers, watching the alien message repeat on their computer screens. "What do you think the beast is?" her friend Tom asked, his voice shaking. Sarah shook her head. "I don't know, but I'm not giving up. We're humans. We've faced tough times before. We'll face this too." As the world held its breath, waiting for the beast to appear, something unexpected happened. In cities all over the globe, people began to come together. Strangers helped each other find safety. Neighbors opened their homes to those in need. In the face of this alien threat, humanity was showing its best side. In orbit, Commander Zix watched all of this with growing confusion. The humans weren't acting the way the aliens had expected. Where was the total panic? The immediate surrender? Instead, he saw courage, kindness, and a strange, unbreakable spirit. For the first time, a flicker of doubt passed through the alien commander's mind. Maybe, just maybe, these humans were more than they seemed. But it was too late to turn back now. The order had been given. It was time to unleash the beast. As the sun began to set on this world-changing day, a bright light appeared in the sky. Something was coming down from the alien ships. The beast was on its way, and no one knew what would happen next. The world waited, scared but united, ready to face whatever was coming. The first chapter of this incredible story was ending, but the most surprising part was yet to come. The world held its breath as the alien ships opened their massive doors. Commander Zix's voice boomed across every screen and speaker on Earth. Humans, behold our ultimate weapon. The beast will show you why resistance is futile. In the White House Situation Room, President Rodriguez and her team watched anxiously. General Thompson paced back and forth, his face grim. "Madam President, our satellites are picking up something leaving the mothership," he reported. It's huge." On the screens, they could see a massive dark shape descending from the largest alien ship. It was surrounded by a strange, shimmering field that made it hard to see clearly. "Whatever it is, we must be ready," President Rodriguez said firmly. "Alert all military bases. Tell them to prepare for anything." Meanwhile, in New York City, Sarah Chen and her co-workers had moved to the roof of their office building. They wanted to see what was happening with their own eyes. "Look," Tom shouted, pointing at the sky. "Something's coming down." Sarah squinted against the setting sun. She could see it too. A large, dark object slowly descending towards Central Park. The air seemed to vibrate with a low, ominous hum. All across the world, similar scenes played out. In London, Paris, Tokyo, and countless other cities, people gathered to watch the arrival of the beast. Some prayed, some cried, but most just waited in silent fear. Back in Kansas, farmer John Miller hadn't moved from his field. He watched the alien ship hovering over his corn, his shotgun still in his hands. His wife, Mary, came out to stand beside him. "John," she said softly, "maybe we should go inside." John shook his head. "No, Mary. Whatever's coming, I want to face it head on." As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, the alien object reached the ground. In New York's Central Park, in John's cornfield in Kansas, and in locations all around the globe, the beast had landed. For a moment, nothing happened. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a hiss of escaping air, the containers began to open. In the White House, President Rodriguez leaned forward, her eyes glued to the screen. "What is it?" she whispered. "What are we dealing with?" General Thompson shook his head, bewildered. I don't know, Madam President. Our sensors can't penetrate that force field." On the alien mothership, Commander Zix watched with satisfaction. He turned to his second-in-command, a tall alien named Kreb. "Now, Kreb," Zix said, "we will see the humans cower in fear. The beast has never failed to terrify a species into submission." Kreb nodded, but there was uncertainty in his large, dark eyes. "Commander," he said hesitantly, "are we sure the beast will have the same effect on humans? They seem different from other species we've encountered." Zix waved away Kreb's concerns. "Nonsense. The beast is the most terrifying creature in the galaxy. No species can stand against it." Back on Earth, the containers had fully opened. The force fields flickered and died away. And finally, for the first time, humans laid eyes on the beast. In Central Park, Sarah Chen pushed to the front of the crowd. As the smoke cleared, she saw something move in the container. Her heart raced, expecting to see a monster. But then, Is that what I think it is?" Tom asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Sarah couldn't believe her eyes. "It looks like a puppy." Indeed, sitting in the middle of the alien container was a small, furry creature. It had 6 legs instead of 4, and its fur shimmered with an otherworldly glow, but its big eyes and wagging tail were unmistakably puppy-like. The beast looked around, seeming confused by all the attention. Then it let out a small, high-pitched bark that sounded more cute than terrifying. For a moment, nobody moved. Then, slowly, smiles began to spread across people's faces. Some even laughed out loud. In Kansas, John Miller lowered his shotgun, a look of utter bewilderment on his face. "Mary," he called to his wife, "you're gonna want to see this." All around the world, the reaction was the same. Instead of terror, the beast was met with coos of adoration and laughter. In the White House, President Rodriguez stood up, a mix of relief and confusion on her face. Is this some kind of joke? She asked. General Thompson shook his head, a small smile tugging at his lips. I don't think so, Madam President. It seems the aliens' ultimate weapon is, well, utterly adorable. As night fell on this extraordinary day, humanity faced an unexpected turn of events. The beast, meant to terrify, had instead brought smiles to faces around the globe. But what did this mean for Earth's future? And how would the aliens react to this unexpected turn of events? The story was far from over, and the biggest surprises were yet to come. The alien mothership hung silently in the night sky, its crew watching in disbelief as events unfolded on Earth. Commander Zix stared at the monitors, his large eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. This is impossible, he sputtered. Why aren't they running in terror? His second-in-command, Kreb, stepped forward cautiously. Sir, it appears the humans are approaching the beast. They seem happy. On the screens, they could see humans in various locations around the globe moving towards the alien creatures. Instead of screams of fear, there was laughter and excited chatter. In New York's Central Park, Sarah Chen had made her way to the front of the crowd. The alien puppy-like creature sat in its open container, looking around with big, curious eyes. It's so cute, Sarah exclaimed. She turned to her friend Tom. Can you believe this is their ultimate weapon? Tom shook his head, a grin spreading across his face. Maybe they thought we'd die from cuteness overload. A police officer had set up a barrier around the creature, but it wasn't to protect people from the beast. It was to protect the beast from the throng of excited humans trying to pet it. Meanwhile, in Kansas, Farmer John Miller and his wife, Mary, stood at the edge of their cornfield, staring in amazement at their unexpected visitor. Well, I'll be, John muttered, scratching his head. In all my years, I never thought I'd see an alien critter in my own backyard. Mary stepped forward, her initial fear replaced by curiosity. The alien puppy turned its attention to her, its tail wagging furiously. It let out a sound that was half bark, half chirp. Oh, John, Mary said, her voice soft. It's just a baby. It must be so scared, all alone on a strange planet. John nodded, his weathered face softening. You're right, Mary. Alien or not, we can't just leave it out here. As similar scenes played out around the world, the alien command ship was in chaos. Commander Zix paced back and forth, his gray skin turning a pale shade of green in distress. This is a disaster, he shouted. The beast was supposed to terrorize them into submission, not make them happy. Kreb cleared his throat nervously. Sir, if I may, perhaps we misunderstood something about human psychology. Our research might have been flawed. Zix whirled on him. Flawed. We spent years studying Earth transmissions. We saw how they reacted to their own large, furry creatures. Bears, lions, wolves. They all inspired fear. Yes, sir, Kreb said cautiously, but we also saw transmissions about smaller furry creatures. Dogs, cats, and something called puppies. Humans seem to have a very different reaction to those. Zix's eyes widened as realization dawned. Are you saying we might have made a mistake? Back on Earth, world leaders were scrambling to respond to this unexpected turn of events. In the White House, President Rodriguez was in an emergency meeting with her advisors. So let me get this straight, she said, pinching the bridge of her nose. The alien's ultimate weapon is essentially a space puppy. General Thompson nodded, trying to keep a straight face. Yes, Madam President. Reports are coming in from all over the world. The creatures are harmless, playful, even. People are, well, they're falling in love with them. President Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, a mix of relief and amusement on her face. Well, I guess we should be thankful. But this doesn't change the fact that we have a fleet of alien ships in orbit, presumably still hostile. What should we do, Madam President? An advisor asked. The president thought for a moment, Then a slow smile spread across her face. "I think it's time we showed these aliens what humanity is really made of. Get me a direct line to their commander. And someone find me one of those space puppies." As night turned to dawn, the world held its breath once again. But this time, it wasn't in fear. A sense of hope had begun to spread. The aliens' greatest weapon had turned out to be the cutest thing humanity had ever seen. And in this unexpected twist, there might just be a chance for peace. In New York, Sarah gently petted the alien puppy, which had curled up contentedly in her lap. In Kansas, John and Mary were feeding their new guests some leftover meatloaf. And in Washington, President Rodriguez prepared to make first contact, with a furry alien ambassador by her side. The story of Earth's first alien encounter was far from over. In fact, the most surprising chapter was just about to begin. As the sun rose on a new day, the world was still trying to make sense of the events that had unfolded. The alien ships remained in orbit, silent and imposing, while on the ground, humans were busy making friends with their unexpected visitors. In the White House, President Rodriguez stood before a large screen, ready to make contact with the alien commander. Beside her sat one of the alien creatures, which had been quickly nicknamed Cosmo by the staff. Cosmo wagged its six-legged tail, seemingly unaware of the historical moment about to take place. "Are we ready?" the president asked, straightening her jacket. General Thompson nodded. "Yes, Madam President. We've established a link with the alien mothership." The screen flickered to life, revealing the alien face of Commander Zix. His large eyes widened in surprise when he saw Cosmo sitting calmly next to the human leader. "Greetings, Commander Zix," President Rodriguez said firmly. "I believe we need to talk." On the alien ship, Zix was struggling to maintain his composure. How could these humans be so calm in the presence of the beast? It didn't make any sense. "Human leader," Zix replied, his words appearing as text on the screen. "Why are you not cowering in fear? The beast should have conquered your planet by now." President Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Conquered? Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Your beast is currently napping on my lap." To demonstrate, she gently patted Cosmo, who let out a contented chirp bark. Zix's gray skin turned an even paler shade. This is impossible. The beast is the most terrifying creature in our galaxy. It has brought mighty civilizations to their knees." As the two leaders talked, similar scenes were playing out around the world. In New York, Sarah Chen had taken the alien puppy she'd named Starlight to a local vet. "Well, I've never seen anything quite like this," the vet said, examining Starlight's 6 legs and shimmering fur. "But as far as I can tell, it's healthy and surprisingly similar to our Earth dogs." Sarah smiled, scratching behind Starlight's ear. "I guess some things are universal, huh?" Meanwhile, in Kansas, John and Mary Miller were introducing their alien visitor to the wonders of farm life. The creature, which they'd started calling Cosmos, seemed fascinated by the chickens. "Look at that, Mary," John chuckled. "Cosmos is herding them, just like a sheepdog." Mary nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. "You know, John, I'm starting to think these aliens might not be so different from us after all." Back on the alien mothership, Commander Zix was having an emergency meeting with his crew. Kreb, his second-in-command, had been busy analyzing data from Earth. "Sir," Kreb reported, "I think I understand what went wrong. In our galaxy, the beast is feared because it bonds with other species." Zix frowned. "Yes, and once bonded, the beast can control minds and bend wills. That's why it's so terrifying." Kreb shook his head. "But sir, humans already have a similar species on their planet. They call them dogs. And they love them. They form deep bonds with these creatures willingly." The alien crew fell silent as the implications of this sank in. What they had seen as a terrifying mind control ability, humans saw as friendship and companionship. "You mean," Zix said slowly, Our ultimate weapon is their pet. On the screen, they could see humans all over the world playing with the beasts, feeding them, even dressing them in tiny outfits. It was so far from the terror and submission they had expected that it was almost comical. As this realization spread through the alien fleet, attitudes began to shift. What had started as an invasion was quickly turning into a first contact situation, unlike any they had experienced before. In the White House, President Rodriguez could see the confusion on Commander Zix's face. She decided to take a chance. "Commander," she said gently, "I think we have a lot to learn from each other. Why don't you come down here and meet Cosmo in person? I promise, there's nothing to fear." For a moment, Zix hesitated. Then, to everyone's surprise, he nodded. "Very well, human leader. I will meet with you, and Cosmo. Perhaps it's time we understood each other better." As preparations began for the first face-to-face meeting between human and alien leaders, a sense of hope spread around the world. What had started as an invasion had turned into an opportunity for understanding and peace, and it was all thanks to a bunch of adorable, six-legged space puppies. The story of Earth's first alien encounter was taking an unexpected turn, and the best was yet to come. The world watched with bated breath as the alien shuttle descended from the mothership. It landed smoothly on the White House lawn, where President Rodriguez waited with Cosmo by her side. Secret Service agents stood nearby, looking nervous but determined. As the shuttle door opened, Commander Zix emerged. He was taller than most humans had imagined, with gray skin that shimmered slightly in the sunlight. His large, dark eyes blinked rapidly as he took in his surroundings. "Welcome to Earth, Commander Zix," President Rodriguez said, stepping forward with a smile. "We're glad you decided to join us." Zix nodded stiffly, his eyes fixed on Cosmo. The alien puppy wagged its tail, looking up at the commander with curiosity. I don't understand," Zix said, his words appearing on a small device he held. "Why isn't it attacking? Why aren't you afraid?" President Rodriguez knelt down and scratched Cosmo behind the ears. The puppy let out a happy chirp bark. "Commander, on our world, creatures like Cosmo are our friends, our companions. We care for them, and they care for us." As if to demonstrate, Cosmo rolled over, asking for a belly rub. The president obliged, and the alien puppy's leg began to thump in happiness. Zix watched this interaction with growing amazement. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached out a long-fingered hand towards Cosmo. "It's okay," President Rodriguez encouraged. "Cosmo won't hurt you." As Zix's hand touched Cosmo's fur, something remarkable happened. The alien puppy's fur began to glow softly, and a wave of warm, positive emotions washed over both the human president and the alien commander. Zix gasped, his eyes widening even further. I feel happy, peaceful. What is this?" President Rodriguez smiled. "That's the power of kindness, Commander. That's what these creatures do. They don't conquer through fear, they unite through love." Meanwhile, all around the world, similar scenes were playing out. In New York, Sarah Chen was in Central Park with Starlight, showing other New Yorkers how to interact with the alien puppies. "See, they love playing fetch," Sarah said, tossing a frisbee. Starlight bounded after it on all six legs, its fur shimmering as it ran. A crowd had gathered, watching in delight as the alien puppy played just like an Earth dog. People from all walks of life were coming together, united by their shared amazement and affection for these cosmic creatures. In Kansas, John and Mary Miller had become local celebrities. News crews from all over the country had come to see how Cosmos was adapting to farm life. "Well, I'll tell you," John said to a reporter. "Cosmos here is the best farmhand I've ever had. Herds the chickens, helps with the harvest, and even predicts the weather better than any meteorologist." Mary nodded, adding, "And you know what? It's made us realize something important. If we can welcome these alien creatures into our homes and hearts, maybe we humans can learn to get along better too." Back at the White House, Commander Zix was sitting on the lawn, Cosmo curled up contentedly in his lap. The alien leader's initial fear and confusion had given way to a sense of wonder and peace. In all our travels, Zix said, looking at President Rodriguez, we've never encountered a species quite like yours. You humans are remarkable. The president smiled. We're not perfect, Commander. We have our flaws and our conflicts. But at our best, we're capable of great kindness and love. Your beasts have helped remind us of that. As the day went on, reports came in from around the globe. The alien puppies were having a profound effect wherever they went. Crime rates were dropping. Conflicts were being resolved peacefully. People were reaching out to help their neighbors, inspired by the unconditional love shown by these cosmic creatures. It seemed that the aliens' ultimate weapon had indeed changed the world, just not in the way they had expected. Instead of conquering through fear, the beasts were uniting humanity through love and kindness. As evening fell, President Rodriguez and Commander Zix stood side by side, watching Cosmo play with some children on the White House lawn. So, Commander, the president said, what happens now? Zix was quiet for a moment, then turned to her. Now, President Rodriguez, I believe it's time for our peoples to learn from each other. We came here seeking to conquer, but instead, we found friends. As the sun set on this extraordinary day, a new chapter in human and alien history was beginning. And it all started because someone looked at the alien's ultimate weapon and said, what a cute pup. In the days that followed the historic meeting between President Rodriguez and Commander Zix, the world witnessed a flurry of activity unlike anything seen before. The United Nations building in New York became the center of a new kind of diplomacy, one where alien delegates walked side by side with human leaders, and where six-legged puppies roamed the halls freely. Sarah Chen, now recognized as one of the first humans to befriend an alien beast, found herself invited to these high-level meetings. As she entered the Grand UN Assembly Hall with Starlight trotting beside her, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. I never thought I'd be here, she whispered to Starlight, who responded with a reassuring chirp bark. At the podium, President Rodriguez addressed the gathered delegates, both human and alien. Commander Zix stood beside her, with Cosmo sitting obediently at his feet. Friends, colleagues, and honored guests from across the stars. The president began, we stand at a crossroads in history. What began as a misunderstanding has blossomed into an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation and friendship between our peoples. Commander Zix nodded, then spoke, his words translated on screens around the hall. We came to Earth believing our beasts would conquer through fear. Instead, they have united us through love. We have much to learn from humanity. As they spoke, the alien puppies in the room began to glow softly, their fur shimmering with colors that seemed to reflect the emotions in the room. The assembled delegates, human and alien alike, found themselves filled with a sense of hope and unity. Meanwhile, in Kansas, John and Mary Miller were hosting a most unusual gathering. Farmers from across the Midwest had come to see Cosmos in action and to learn how the alien technology might be adapted for agriculture. Now watch this, John said, gesturing to a field of corn. Cosmos trotted down the rows, its fur glowing green. As it passed, the corn seemed to stand taller, the ears filling out before their eyes. It's like it can communicate with the plants, Mary explained to the astonished crowd. We've doubled our yield, and we haven't used any chemical fertilizers. One of the alien agricultural experts present nodded enthusiastically. Yes, the beasts have always had this ability, but on our world, we used it for less peaceful purposes. You humans have shown us a better way. Back in New York, the UN Assembly was discussing plans for cultural exchange programs. Sarah found herself volunteering before she even realized what she was doing. I'd be honored to visit your world, she said, standing up, to learn about your culture and to show you more about ours. A ripple of excitement went through the alien delegates. Commander Zix's eyes widened with what Sarah now recognized as a smile. We would be delighted to host you, Zix said. And perhaps some of us could stay here on Earth for a while to learn more about your way of life. President Rodriguez beamed. Of course, we'll set up exchange programs, cultural centers, maybe even joint scientific research facilities. Together, we can achieve things neither of our species could do alone. As the meeting progressed, more and more ideas were shared. Plans for joint space exploration missions, sharing of medical knowledge, and even intergalactic sporting events. The aliens were particularly intrigued by the concept of fetch. But amidst all the grand plans, it was the small moments that truly showed how much had changed. An alien delegate sharing a sandwich with a human counterpart. A group of children, human and alien, playing together in the UN gardens, watched over by their beast companions. Commander Zix and President Rodriguez laughing together over a cup of coffee, Cosmo and Starlight napping peacefully at their feet. As the sun set on another extraordinary day, Sarah stood on a balcony overlooking the New York skyline. Starlight sat beside her, its fur glowing softly in the twilight. You know, Sarah said, scratching behind Starlight's ears, when I first saw those ships in the sky, I was terrified. I thought it was the end of the world. But now, she gestured to the city below, where humans and aliens walked together, where the soft glow of beast fur could be seen in parks and streets. Now it feels like it's just the beginning. Starlight let out a happy chirp bark, as if in agreement. As Sarah looked up at the stars, she realized that the universe had suddenly become a much bigger and much friendlier place. The story of Earth's first alien encounter was far from over. In fact, the most exciting chapters were yet to be written. And thanks to a group of adorable, six-legged space puppies, those chapters promised to be filled with friendship, understanding, and plenty of intergalactic belly rubs. 1 year had passed since the day the alien ships first appeared in Earth's sky. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Today, on the anniversary of first contact, celebrations were being held across the globe and beyond. In New York City, Sarah Chen stood on a stage in Central Park, Starlight by her side. Before her was a sea of faces, human and alien alike. She took a deep breath and began to speak. A year ago, I was just an ordinary office worker who happened to look up at the right moment. Today, I stand before you as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Alliance. If someone had told me then what would happen, I would have thought they were crazy. The crowd laughed, and Sarah felt herself relax. Starlight's fur glowed a warm, comforting blue. But here we are, she continued, humans and aliens, living and working together. And it's all thanks to these little guys. She patted Starlight's head, earning a happy chirp bark. In the crowd, aliens and humans stood side by side, many with their own beast companions. The park was filled with the soft, multicolored glow of beast fur, creating a magical atmosphere. Meanwhile, in Kansas, the Miller Farm had become a hub of interstellar agricultural research. John and Mary hosted a barbecue for their human neighbors and alien colleagues. Cosmos trotted around, helping to serve drinks with its telekinetic abilities. You know, John said to an alien scientist as they flipped burgers on a grill, a year ago, I was ready to face down an alien invasion with my old shotgun. Now I'm grilling space vegetables for folks from across the galaxy. Funny how things turn out, ain't it? The alien scientist, still getting used to human humor, nodded enthusiastically. Indeed. Your Earth foods are fascinating. Especially this ketchup. We have nothing like it on our world. In Washington, D.C., President Rodriguez and Commander Zix, now the Galactic Alliance's ambassador to Earth, were preparing for a joint address to be broadcast across Earth and to alien worlds. Are you ready for this? Rodriguez asked, adjusting her jacket. Zix nodded, his large eyes blinking with what the president now recognized as excitement. I am. Though I must admit, a year ago I never would have imagined standing here as a friend rather than a conqueror. Cosmo, now wearing a tiny diplomatic collar, wagged its tail, and let out a supportive bark. As they stepped out onto the balcony, they were greeted by a cheering crowd. Humans and aliens stood together, waving flags from Earth and various alien worlds. The scene was repeated in cities across the globe. My fellow Earthlings and our friends from the stars, President Rodriguez began. 1 year ago, we faced what we thought was our darkest hour. Instead, it became the dawn of a new era. Zix then spoke, his words translated for all to hear. We came to Earth as conquerors, wielding what we thought was the ultimate weapon. Instead, you showed us the ultimate power, the power of kindness, understanding, and love. As they spoke, news feeds showed celebrations around the world. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower was lit up with colors mimicking beast fur. In Tokyo, a parade featured floats designed by human and alien artists. In Rio de Janeiro, a samba school performed a dance telling the story of first contact, with dancers in elaborate alien and beast costumes. But it wasn't just on Earth that things had changed. The President and Zix unveiled plans for the first joint human-alien space mission, a voyage to explore a distant solar system, crewed by scientists from both species and, of course, their beast companions. As the speech concluded, fireworks exploded in the sky, a dazzling display designed by human and alien pyrotechnicians. The beasts added to the show, their fur glowing in synchronized patterns that lit up the night. Sarah, watching from New York, felt a lump in her throat. She thought back to that morning a year ago, when she'd spilled her coffee in shock at the sight of alien ships. Now, as she looked up at the sky full of colors and the faces full of joy around her, she realized that the invasion had turned into the greatest gift humanity had ever received. Starlight nuzzled her hand, and Sarah knelt to hug her alien friend. You know what, Starlight? I think this is just the beginning of our adventure. As the celebrations continued into the night, across Earth, and on worlds light years away, one thing was clear. The future was bright, and it was going to be an exciting journey for all species involved. And it all started because someone looked at the alien's ultimate weapon and said, "What a cute pup." The end.